The Battle Cats is a game that varies a lot in difficulty. Some stages can be incredibly easy, like the majority of Empire of Cats, while some require extreme micromanagement for nearly an hour where one small mistake will end the entire run. But of all these stages, which one can truly be called the hardest? The answer depends. It depends because of Ubers. Several Ubers can serve as complete hard counters to an entire stage, basically shutting it down and trivializing it. I'm going to be looking at several stages commonly agreed to be extremely difficult and be ranking them under 4 different categories: all Ubers, casual players, no Ubers, and no gotcha. All Ubers means you have every single Uber in the game unlocked and at level 60. Casual player assumes the average player, having a decent chunk of Ubers, but only a few at level 50 or 60. And no Ubers and no gotcha are self-explanatory. For casual players, the rarity and investment level of certain Ubers will be accounted for. If it's a collab Uber, it will be assumed you don't own it. There's also investment level. If an Uber requires Ultraform or Ultra Talents to be usable in that stage, it will be a roadblock. And more niche ones that only counter a few stages will also be assumed that you don't own, because the investment is too much just to clear a handful of stages compared to other top Ubers with Ultra Talents or Ultra Forms. And for no gotcha, it will be assumed the player hasn't rolled the rare cat capsules once and has beaten the entire game without it. Alright, that was a long preamble. Let's begin. The first stage we're looking at is the home of the Mind Sage himself, Adherence to Virtue. I don't like this stage, and I made a video as to why. Regardless, this is a near solo battle with Sage of Mind's Socrates, as well as some Doge darts. The strategy is to cyberstack and stall Socrates as much as possible with Octopus Tad. You'll pretty much need Octo at level 50 at the minimum to stall Socrates, but you'll still need plus levels and health up talents. The stage is almost entirely dependent on your Octopus level alone. However, there are a lot of Ubers that work well in this stage. The Ultra form of Windy and Cosmo completely shred the stage, making it a complete joke. They're complete hard counters that remove any challenge from the stage. While they do require some investment, they're still some of the best Ultra forms in the game, especially Cosmo, who I'd still say is the best. There's also a lot of soft counters that work great against Socrates. Daily Ascent can serve as a supplement to Cyberpunk with high damage, better slow up time, and shorter blind spot. There's also Hanzo, who can deal huge damage to Socrates and freeze him for a short time, as well as taking care of the Doge darts. And lastly, any top-tier sniper like the Fanoas can outrange and deal enormous damage to Socrates, as well as taking care of the Doge darts. As for no Ubers, this largely depends on your Octopus level, as I've said. It's still an extremely difficult stage and has little to commentate on without Ubers, so we'll go right to no gotcha. This used to be the hardest stage in the game to beat without gotcha. Keywords, used to be. In the 14.2 update, Bahamut got a speed-up talent, which combined with Socrates' reduced knockback, allows him to clip through and cheese the base. The explosion talent also helped reduce the RNG of a Doge Dart killing Bahamut by allowing a lingering hitbox. This cheese was possible before talents, but was extremely difficult. And while you can do this cheese with gotcha, it's often harder to do so rather than just using Octopus to stall the boss. Overall, Adherence to Virtue is a very difficult stage that revolves around the usage of one cat, but gets countered by a lot of Ubers and can be cheesed without gotcha. It still wins number 1 in all categories by default because there's currently no other stages reviewed to take that spot. The second stage is where the Clan of the Malevolence are, Heinous Road. The stage is a boss rush of 4 tanky Malevolent cats at once. Malevolent Mohawk, Malevolent Dark, Malevolent Flying, and Malevolent Jamira. There's also the occasional Malevolent Lion to disrupt and push. Shield Piercers are a must-have for the stage. All 5 of these cats have a very tanky shield that take up a majority of the boss's effective HP. Barrel is the most common one due to having LD to pierce all of their shields at once. The strategy is similar to Adherence to Virtue, with cyber stacking along with Sniper to stall the bosses. However, the shields make this much harder and you don't have as much time to set up a stack. As for Ubers, there are 2 hard counters to the stage, much like Adherence to Virtue. These 2 Ubers are Satoru and Hanayama. Satoru is a crowd control Uber against Aku and is essentially a combination of Barrel, Cyber, and Sniper against that trait. He has a 50% shield pierce chance, LD, a very high slow up time, and guaranteed slow and knockback. He basically makes it impossible for the bosses to move anywhere in the stage and allows free damage. And the other one is Hanayama, although there seems to be an error in the script. I didn't mean to write Hanayama, I meant to write Mike Tyson. While Satoru keeps the bosses in place and allows you to kill them easily, Tyson cuts out the middleman and kills them himself. He has guaranteed shield bursting and a monstrous 600,000 burst damage and nearly 45,000 DPS against Aku, along with having nearly a million health against them. However, he is a collab Uber, so he'll only be accounted for the all Ubers ranking, especially because you can't even get him in a global version yet. It is still very possible that you own Satoru and completely hard counter the stage. As for the soft counters, there are loads of Ubers that work here. Basically every top tier Uber works. Ghastly, Dulfinoa, Cosmo, Ganesha with Ultra Talents, Anubis with Ultra Talents, and a few anti-Aku Ubers like Amakusa with Talents. There are loads of Ubers that work well here, possibly the most out of any stage on this list. The only few top tier Ubers that don't work are the ones with too low range, like Balrog or Laslos. It's very likely you have at least one Uber that can make the stage a lot easier. As for the no Uber strategy, it's honestly just spam of dodge meat shields, ranged attackers like Housewife, and Can for money. There's not too much strategy, and it's mostly just praying for good barrel and shield pierce RNG. You could probably even use Cat CPU. That being said, it is still incredibly difficult, often agreed to be the hardest stage in the game. As for no gacha, it requires extreme RNG with barrel, near flawless rock timing, and a majority of the damage from Uriel and Little Dragon. You'll also need to Bahamut change against the Malevolent Mohawk at the start. This takes the #1 ranking in all Ubers, no Ubers, and no gacha categories. The hard counters don't completely lobotomize the stage like Adherence to Virtue, and still offer a little challenge in RNG. It still loses the casual players category due to having much more soft counters, though. The third stage we're looking at is the Xenobeast's Homeland, King of the Beasts. This is the most recent level on the list. Now, there are 4 stages in King of the Beasts, so which one is it? Well, I chose to pick Stage 3 since it's usually considered the hardest of the Advent. The stage is a base hit stage with a start off consisting of just peon spam. The only threatening one here is Sir Rel. The boss wave starts with the Xenobeast Funaglios, a very difficult boss with up to 675 reach, along with a 20% chance to deal a critical strike. There's also 4 little bun buns and a regular teacher bun after a while. This combination pushes very hard and is what causes the stage to be considered the hardest. Once again, the strategy is cyber stacking with Sniper, but this one's even worse because Funaglios has knockback immunity, and Sniper can tank hits for the other bun. There's very few hard counters for this stage, with the only real one being Cosmo, due to outranging Funaglios' explosion and being able to crowd control the other buns. But even he doesn't work too well due to a long TBA, which can easily allow the enemies to push if your cyber stack isn't all that great. As for soft counters, there's also not too many. Aphrodite with Ultra Talents and Lunacia both do well. Aphrodite can deal enormous damage to Funaglios, and can provide her own slow if you're lucky. She can also tank the last explosion hit, and can even be safe with a stepping stone, although she is much more useful with alter talents and it's a relatively niche investment. Lunacia has blast immunity. Oh, and I guess she's also strong versus aliens. But that doesn't matter when you have blast immunity. As for no Ubers, the strategy is to get as big of a cyber stack as possible before hitting the base, and hoping that you can stall the boss for long enough that you chip him down and he dies. This stage is actually too recent for a no gacha strategy to be developed. There's been barely any power creep since the boss release, because there has been only 2 updates since it. However, there is something I neglected to mention. You don't have to stack just Cyberpunk on the start off. You can stack any long-distance Uber and shred Bunaglias in 2. Any long-distance Uber with high damage can work, but the best one is Aphrodite, for reasons previously stated. When considering this, she actually ranks above Cosmo as a hard counter for the stage, and is the closest thing to a hard counter on the same tier as Satoria's for Heinous Road. This one takes number 1 in the all Ubers and no gacha, due to not having a proper hard counter and being so recent that there isn't a proper no gacha strategy. It ranks number 2 in casual players due to lacking many soft counters, and number 3 in no Ubers due to having a strategy similar with them. The 4th stage is the Veteran Babies Napping Corner, Babies First. This is unique from all the other stages on this list due to having restrictions. The restrictions are that you can only deploy normal and uber rare cats. Immediately, you can predict a massive discrepancy between the all Ubers and casual players category and the no Ubers and no gacha categories. There are a lot of hard counters to Doremi. Balrog, Isun, Dark Is, Darked, basically any Uber that can juggle Doremi without them attacking. The stage doesn't really have any soft counters due to Doremi's extreme range and crowd control, along with being able to snipe your base. However, this is where the massive discrepancy kicks in. Without Ubers, the strategy is an all-out rush against Doremi, which requires a 20 plus 90 super feline, which in and of itself requires 16,001 user rank. The barrier to even attempting the strategy is absolutely enormous. Let me put it into perspective. I have been playing this game for nearly 2.5 years, have over 800 hours in it, have every Meow medal except for the Labyrinth one, am currently at the XP cap, have been in the post-game for months, and have beaten every single stage on this list multiple times out of sheer boredom. And you want to know how much user rank I have? 14,206. Not even at the requirement to get a plus 80 true super feline. If we assume every unit I get will be at level 30, then I'll need an absurd 60 more units to get true super feline to a level where I can beat the stage Uberless. And that's not even accounting for the additional grinding I need to do to get the cat tickets, which I'll need around 200 of them on average if I have super feline at plus 80 by the time I get 16,001 user rank. And even with the nearly insurmountable barrier of getting a 20 plus 90 super feline, this strategy is still not easy and requires perfect RNG. And in no gacha, I'm not even sure if there's enough units to get to that barrier. And this stage is also unique among the contemporaries due to one thing: power creep. All of these stages could reasonably get power crept by an overpowered unit, something along the lines of how Bahamut talents were, but for specifically those stages. However, due to the restrictions, this stage is completely immune to any form of power creep. The only possible method I could see is if they add another normal cat, which I am 100% certain that they will not do. The only way the stage will get power crept is with adding more units to upgrade and increasing the average user rank. But that will still take possibly years depending on how often we get new units. This stage is last place for all Ubers and casual players, but is number 1 in no Ubers and no gacha, and will stay there for an extremely long time due to the barrier of entry required to even attempt this stage. And the last stage is the final trial in the Cat Claw Dojo 12-3. The stage is a triple boss rush against Okame, Ringmaster, and Megamajo. There's also the start off with a 200% Midnight D and several 200% Sir Rels throughout the course of the fight. That's also not to mention the 6000% Sir Seals. Immediately, you can see that this stage is a bit unlike the others due to having massively inflated enemy magnifications akin to 3 Crown UL. The strategy is once again cyber stacking with Sniper the Deadeye. Are you beginning to notice the pattern? Unlike the other stages, this one forces you to do it for much longer, as the perma-slow is practically required for you to win. As for Ubers, there's only one true hard counter, that being Hellrider Kenshin. She can permanently juggle Okame with her mini-wave, and with Curse Immunity, doesn't have to worry about Megamajo. But this is one niche Ultra form that has practically no other uses, so it will only be accounted for the All Ubers ranking. There aren't really any soft counters to the stage, unlike what you may expect. Ghastly can curse Okame to prevent his knockback, and can chip down Ringmaster, but has low range and can't deal with the Megamajo. Fano and Cosmo can deal supplementary damage at a safe range, but require a perfect cyber stack to use. Plus, Ringmaster is wave immune to counter Cosmo, and Megamajo's Surge can hit him if he pushes, which he certainly will thanks to slow immunity. Dark Fanoa seems useful on paper, but because of how low his slow time is, he can actually mess up your cyber stack and cause the enemies to push, ironically enough. The only other Uber I would consider to be a hard counter to the stage is Warlock and Pierre, and that's only because of the cheese. Even then, it will take around 4 to 5 of them compared to only needing 2 or 3 LD Ubers for Banaglios. And he's the only Uber that can do this because of his base destroyer. This one also won't be accounted for casual players due to taking a very long time and having no substitutes, though it can be a last resort if you do own him. As for the Uberless strategy, it involves using Uril and Luza to rush down the Ringmaster with the cyber stack to keep Okame back, and using Edie's true form to deal with the Megamajo. Megamajo is the biggest threat in the stage due to having slow immunity and being able to snipe your cyber stack with an unlucky surge. After he's dead, the stage still isn't won, because Okame can still make it to your base if your cyber stack dies, which it almost certainly will. You just have to hope he's not too close by that time. The no gacha strategy is similar, but with way more RNG from Megamajo's Surge, and using Breaker Blast as your only method of stalling Okame. One last fun fact about this stage, this is the stage with the highest level enemy magnification in the game. It's not any of the actual enemies, but instead, it's the base, having an absurd 22 million% magnification, giving it 2.2 million health. This stage is number 2 in all Ubers due to having only 1 counter and 1 cheese unit, is number 1 in casual players due to having basically no counters the average player owns or is willing to use, and number 5 in no Uber, and number 4 in no gacha due to having a complicated strategy, but one that isn't too hard to execute. And now, it's time for the podium. For the All Ubers category, Babies First is number 5, Adherence to Virtue is number 4, Heinous Road is number 3, Dojo 12-3 is number 2, and Banaglios is number 1. For the Casual Players category, Babies First is number 5, Heinous Road is number 4, Adherence to Virtue is number 3, Banaglios is number 2, and Dojo 12-3 is number 1. For the No Ubers category, Dojo 12-3 is number 5, Banaglios is number 4, Adherence to Virtue is number 3, Heinous Road is number 2, and Babies First is number 1. For the No Gacha category, Adherence to Virtue is number 5, Dojo 12-3 is number 4, Heinous Road is number 3, Banaglios is number 2, and Babies First is number 1. Do note that for the No Gacha category, there hasn't been any recorded completions of the top 2 stages on a No Gacha save file as far as I'm aware. Babies First is only above Banaglios due to the lack of a power creep opportunity. So, which of these stages is the hardest for most people? Well, all Ubers and No Gacha can be safely ruled out, since it's very unlikely anyone watching this has either of those conditions met. So the only 2 categories that matter for the question are casual players and no Ubers. In these categories, Dojo 12-3 is the hardest for casual players, and Babies First is the hardest for no Ubers. So there's your answer. Pick any of the 2. Interestingly, Heinous Road did not appear as number 1 in any of these categories, despite usually being considered the hardest stage in the game. My guess as to why this is that most sources consider no Ubers, and many of the game's top players already have Super Feline maxed out, so the barrier for entry is gone. Well, those were my findings when researching this question. Comment down below which stage you had the hardest time with, and what your personal ranking would look like. The casual players category matches relatively well with my personal experience, though I would swap Heinous Road and Bunaglios, as I beat the latter stage first try. That's about all I have to talk about. Goodbye everyone, I'll see you in the next video.